Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Mecowhy YouTube channel. In today's episode we will talk about the SRX. Probably you already seen the title for today's video and you are wondering what this is all about. Well, let me tell you the story, but before we do, let's go to a car wash because my car needs some cleaning. As you can see, it's pretty dirty. It's been a few weeks since I washed it last time, and with this type of weather that we have in Michigan right now, right before Christmas, it's very easy to get the car dirty. Okay, so I'm at the car wash, and this is a manual 4-bay car wash. Never seen anything like this. There is a line. There is a line to the car wash. Check it out. There's a car in front of me. All bays are busy. Something new. Okay, we are moving. The car is nice and shiny. We can now talk about my Cadillac SRX. This time I'm only going to talk about my experience with the car and if that was a good decision. I bought the car with 92,000 miles at the beginning of September, and ever since I had some problems. To date I resolved all the problems, but the question was if that was a smart decision. I bought the car, simply because I really like the interior. The exterior is okay, but my approach to vehicles is always, you should be happy with your car and you should enjoy the ride, right? So I'm not outside looking at the car when I'm driving it. I'm spending most of my time driving it inside. So I spend anywhere between 30 minutes, sometimes up to an hour, commuting to or from work. So from that perspective, I want something that's nice inside, that's comfortable, and that's what I was looking for with Cadillac. The ride quality is really nice, right? But I had some problems. So if you watch one of my previous videos when I talk about the day when I bought the car, I had some problems from the get-go. There was a leaking exhaust. Thank you, Crestview Cadillac. You guys fixed it for me. You didn't have to. I really appreciate it. I'm really happy with what the dealership did. They didn't have to fix it. Well, but that wasn't it. The next thing that happened right after it, within a week or so, was leaking exhaust manifold. As you can see right now, there was a huge crack in the exhaust manifold, and I discovered it within a week or two of owning the car. I called the dealership and well, they were a little bit defensive about it. They say they didn't knew about the problem, and it was hard to diagnose. It takes only about 10 to maybe 20 seconds before the crack sealed itself and the problem went away. So I didn't expect them to find it, because by the time they start the car, they pull it inside for inspection, that crack would seal itself and you could not tell there was any leak. Let's make a turn. Green light. So I called the dealership. They were defensive, but they fixed it. They didn't replace the exhaust manifold, as you know, this is pretty expensive part. Cadillac asked, I believe, about $1,200 for the exhaust manifold, as this particular part includes catalytic converter. So they decided to weld it, and it seems to me that this is a stainless steel, so it should not crack again. I already put 7,000 miles, and it's not a problem anymore. They fixed it. But that was the second problem I had with the car. And at that moment, I started to questioning if I did the right move, because I owned the car for 2 weeks and I already had 2 separate exhaust-related problems. But that wasn't it. Within a week, I decided to upgrade my bulbs to an HID kit. And I had huge problem with the HID kit. I throw it away. I didn't even put a video on YouTube. What happened was, even though I installed it correctly with the proper resistors in place, with the proper relay, etc., they kept on flickering. And they flickered to the point where they caused a stability track or whatever error. And those of you who own a GM vehicle, probably you're very familiar with this particular error message. Excuse me. From my research, it seems that everybody who owns GM car at some point had this particular problem. And to top it off, usually when the code is reset and somebody tries to troubleshoot, it never comes back. Cannot be related to anything. And in my situation, I was able to reset the code and never came back. However, I got this particular error message when I was at work about 30 miles away from home, and the car got into lip mode, meaning I could not drive it over 3,000 RPMs. So the automatic transmission didn't work because the shifting points, especially during acceleration, are above 3,000 RPM, so I couldn't get the car up to speed on the highway. I actually took side roads and I used the manual shifting. I was shifting at about 2,500 RPMs just to get home. I was able to get home, connected my scanner, reset the codes, removed the HID kit. I thought that it's possible that the kit was causing some electrical problems. I don't know if it was, but it wasn't. I removed it, and I never had this particular problem coming back. Then I decided to install a dash cam. Well, what a disaster that was. I didn't realize that it will cause so many problems as it actually did. The first problem that I realized was the car was not detecting my key. I was unable to start the car. Every time I wanted to start the car, I had to take my remote and put it in the armrest. There's a specific area where you have to put the remote. That was the only way I could start the car. I replaced the battery, it didn't help. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. And at that point, I did a little bit of research, and it turned out the dash cam is interfering with the communication between the vehicle and the remote. And the way I hardwired it was always on. It was basically hardwired to circuit that was off. So I changed the configuration. I hardwired it to a different fuse that would turn off with the vehicle. So at that point it worked fine, because when I got into the vehicle and I wanted to start it, I was able to start it because there was no interference. But the moment I turned on the car, I got the message, key not detected, but the car was already running. So it worked okay. But different problems started happening. Driving back home, got error message. that the sensor from the passenger side rear wheel is not sending air pressure. So I got, low air pressure message from that wheel. And then the message started moving around on different wheels. So that wheel would work, another wheel would not, and I figured it must be the dash cam. Well, I decided to keep it on and try to figure out what is happening until the next problem. Driving the car, all of a sudden I lost power on my dashboard. Everything just went dead. And what happened was there's a 60 ampere fuse near the battery that got blown. And I think it was again the dash cam that caused the trouble. I'm not sure, but that's what happened. I replaced that fuse and the car ran fine. At that point I removed the dash cam. I no longer have my dash cam in the car, and I don't have any interference within the vehicle. This is weird. I mean, this stuff should not be happening. I still have to test the dash car with my wife's car, see if she would be getting the interference, if this is specific to Cadillac that has improperly designed communication between components, or is the dash cam basically jamming all the communications between those components. Anyway, you guys probably already watched my video where I replaced my spark plugs and my coil pack, and to be honest with you, it's very rare. I mean, I never experienced a vehicle under 100,000 miles misfiring, and misfiring to the point where you get blinking check engine message. Check engine error. And I replaced the spark plugs. They looked okay. I know my camera work was pretty poor on that video. It moved on my head, and once you record something, there's no way to go back and re-record. So sorry for that poor quality. Anyway, I replaced the coil pack. I replaced the spark plugs. The car works fine, although I still can feel some misfiring every once in a while. I didn't get any error messages. I already scanned the engine. Not sure what it is, if this is normal or not. So that's about all the problems that I had. In addition, this is a front wheel drive car. It's not all wheel drive. That's what they had. I was okay with it. But honestly, the traction control is poor. It's really bad on this car. I was surprised that any other front wheel car that I had, and usually most of the cars that I own were all wheel drive, but I had a number of front wheel drive cars, would not spin the wheels for, let's say, 2 seconds before the traction control kicks in. Usually you get reduction of power right away with traction control cars. I mean, the wheels would spin for a little bit, right, for the computer to get the readouts, but not for 2 seconds. And we didn't have snow. It was just wet road. Okay, my tires were not the best out there. I replaced the tires already, but I already experienced similar problem with the new tires that I bought. So this is not really something that I'm super happy about. So now, to answer the question that I asked at the very beginning, was this a mistake? Well, no. I think, every used car, even new cars, have problems when you buy them. And used cars especially. I mean, this is a 6-year-old car with close to 100,000 miles on. And of course, you will have some problems. From my perspective, it's always, I'm not a car mechanic. I like working on cars, on my cars. Sometimes I will help out my friends, my neighbors, and that's how I learn, right? By actually experiencing some problems and trying to figure out the solution. I mean, that's in a way what I think, I like doing, coming up with solutions to problems. That's why also I do what I do for a living. And also this type of problems allow me to create content for you guys. So it's not that bad. But on the other hand, you know, I had a number of cars that did not have this type of problems. I mean, my Audi A6, there were some problems, but it wasn't so many problems at once right after I bought the vehicle. You know, my Infiniti FX35, man, I love that car. I really regret selling it, but on the other hand, I kind of like getting new cars every so often. And when I was buying this one, I was thinking about buying another FX. And, you know, from my perspective, it was more about learning new stuff, not necessarily going back to the same thing that I had before, but actually experiencing something new, right? I never had GM car, and I always liked, like I said, this interior. I really like the interior of this vehicle, so wanted to see what it is, and the car was a good deal. If I ever decide to sell it, it will be a sorted out car. I think it's already sorted out at this point, and I get my money back. So no, it was not a mistake. I just think GM cars are maybe more complex than they should be. My approach to anything is make stuff simple. Don't over engineer, don't make stuff too complex. And I think in this situation, GM over engineered this car, and that's why we have all those problems. Anyway, those are my thoughts. This is what I think about my car. I think overall it's a good car. You know, I like driving it. My kids are my kids like to travel in this car. It's a good family vehicle, gives me decent gas mileage, and allows me to create content. Well, so those are my thoughts about my car. Those are the problems that I had. Was it a mistake? No. I like the experience of owning it. Probably I would buy it again. Probably I would buy all-wheel drive version of it. Probably I don't own it, you know, like any other car for 2-3 years. I probably will have it for a year or so. And I'll continue to producing content with it. Well, we have a few more days to Christmas. So hopefully I'll post it before Christmas, and if you are watching it at any time before the holidays, I want to wish you Merry Christmas, or, you know, Happy Holidays, whatever it is you are celebrating this season. Well, thank you for watching, stay tuned, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye guys.